When you think of technology, first thing, before getting into how you're going to make a video, no matter what you do in the video, just make sure your lighting is good. Most of the videos which I've seen are shot in dark because the reason is it's a screen based thing or it's a projection based thing. So we need to get the projection right, so we switch off all the lights. It's perfectly fine, but the camera can't do that unless you have a very good camera, like extremely good DSLRs or maybe an handycam which is good enough. Most of the cameras will give you an extremely grained output, like it will be grainy. So it's better to shoot it in around 30% 40% lighting, maybe at least one light in the room, which will give a basic amount of light to all the objects. It can be extremely dull, but it's fine. At least the camera will know what is there in the room, so that it can kind of, if it's a very low end camera, it has to focus at some point of time. There is no manual focus, so you need to have some amount of lighting in the room for it to be shot nicely. Then there are techniques in softwares which can reduce this light and make it look like you've shot in dark, and all that can be done. But when you're shooting, just make sure you're shooting with some amount of lighting, no matter what is your project. Try to use a tripod. It's very important. You might be extremely confident that you can hold a camera, and it might be extremely tiring to carry a tripod everywhere, but I think carrying tripod, I think setting up a tripod really is important, because the moment your camera is shaking, it gives a very amateur feel to it. So half of the time, if the camera is set perfectly on a tripod, and if the scene is composed well, and if the lighting is perfect, and mostly white balancing is one more work. Oh, I forgot to add, I'll add that also. If your tripod is done and if the white balancing is perfect, then that's it, your shot is actually going to look good. But people miss out here and here. And now, what is white balance? People, those are not understanding this term, I really don't want to explain the entire term now, but I'll tell you in a very simple way. For example, it's kind of a calibration. Okay, it's like you're telling the camera that this is white and this is black in an environment. So if you're using any decent camera, there'll be some amount of settings, like you can change white balancing from tungsten light to cloudy environment to shade and all these things. So just figure out in your camera where is this white balance setting and try to change it. If you have a custom like manual white balance setting, that's really good. You can set it up manually. You can go through some online tutorials to find out how to do this. In short, if you don't want to bother about white balancing, just understand this one thing. In your preview screen in your camera, if the scene doesn't look exactly the same way it looks in your eyes, for example, if it looks extremely yellow, like the entire scene is extremely yellowish, like it's tinted with yellow color, then it's something wrong. Like that is not what you see in real life if the real scene is not yellow in color. And if your real scene is really yellow, like you're having a lot of tungsten lights in your room, and you want it to look extremely neutral, like you want a very desaturated feel and a normal shot, then you can again achieve this in camera itself by doing the white balancing settings. So this is a very important part which people miss out generally. So try to look into it or learn about it if you don't know till now, and try to make sure that you think about it. Then selecting the right camera is very important. For example, you're shooting something in a street. Let's assume that you have made a project which is something hanging somewhere in the street, or maybe a billboard in the street or something like that. If you can't set up everything professional there, and you can't have a tripod and set it up, and like I can give an example of Teen Darwaza in Ahmedabad. Like I don't think you can take everything from college to that area and set up everything and shoot everything and come back. So in that case, anything small like a handycam will be a good option. But if you have an option to set it up perfectly, then go for a good DSLR, maybe a 7D or a 5D Mark II, or maybe a 60D, or at least 550D, not less than that. So all these are Canon, sorry, I forgot to mention that. So don't go for cameras which are like point and shoots, because they really are bad, and being a design student you might have access to these good cameras. So get something decent and learn how to make basic changes like white balancing, and if you know how to set up manual focus, that's more than good. If you have a DSLR, obviously you should learn how to do manual focusing so that you can achieve depth of field and all this stuff. So next thing is, yeah, at what resolution you are shooting this entire video. I've seen most of the people do something majorly wrong here. Either they don't note what they are shooting at, they just borrow the camera from AV Studio and they just start shooting. They import the file in the computer, and then they come up with problems like, oh, Premiere is not accepting this and it's looking bad, the aspect ratio is different, and maybe you shot on a different frame rate which is not required, stuff like that. So be aware of what you're shooting. Is it 1280 into 720, or is it 1920 into 1080, or is it really low? All these are very important. So I would prefer 1920 into 1080, which is true HD, or if your camera doesn't support that, at least 1280 into 720, nothing less than that. At least today you'll have a any camera can support one of this, so make sure this. And I know iPhone camera has 1280 into 720, but yeah, never ever make a video with a mobile phone camera. So that's something about resolution. And do note whether it's going to give you an AVI file or an MPEG file or maybe MP4 or something like that. So just make sure what you're getting from the camera. Then now you think of what is the software you're going to have. So at least try to get something like CS3 or above that, like CS4 or CS5, anything like that, because these new cameras give some codecs and some, like, basically the setting what you're the video file which you're recording from these cameras may not be supported in an older Premiere version. So if you don't have it, download the latest Adobe Premiere and try to have that. Because I've seen people opening very old Adobe Premiere Pro and trying to put these videos there, and they're not sure what is the mistake. They might be thinking that there is something wrong with the video, and they start getting confused with it. So that is one issue which you have to think about. Then yeah, so many people have this doubt if they are not sure of what software to start with, because so many people have not really started doing video editing. So this is the first time. So Premiere, in short, is to edit videos. Let's say that you have shot a video for 10 minutes and 1 minute each shot you have shot, and now you need to chop all these things and put everything together and put text in front and back and then add an audio. This can be done in Premiere easily. You can do transitions between videos, you can dissolve, wipe, all that is possible in Premiere. Now, what is After Effects for? What if you have shot a video in which you're showing a screen and your camera has a red color recording light, and this red light is getting reflected in that screen. Let's assume that you didn't observe this when you're shooting the video, and now you don't want that red color to be there and you feel it's distracting. So this can be taken care of in After Effects, like any small tinkering, small edit which is like extremely subtle but is very important for the quality of the video. Those things can be done in After Effects. And what if you want a very fancy title? That can be done in After Effects. And what else is important in After? Yeah, and if you're shooting something in more than one layer, for example, you're shooting someone with a alpha screen, that is what is it called, a keying screen. You have a green screen the back and you're shooting someone there, and you want to take them and put it in a different background, stuffs like that, then you need After Effects. All this is called compositing. So to do those hi-fi stuffs, you might require After Effects, but for a basic video, Premiere is more than enough.